You ever see a pack of vultures circling above your house and wonder which one's about to drop? Yeah, that's about what it felt like the night my $280,000 home nearly vanished in a whirl of fake HOA violations while I was 200 miles away holding my mother's hand in hospice, watching the strongest woman I'd ever known fade out. You want a story? Buckle up, neighbor. This one's got everything corruption, cowardice, and one HOA president about to meet her match. Picture this. 47 furious neighbors crammed into our suffocating community center news crew shoulder to shoulder, and Brenda, the HOA president in a navy blazer, and that ironed blonde Bob screaming at me to sit down, shut up, and just pay your fines, Patricia. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed like angry wasps. I reached for my purse, calm as a Sunday sunrise. Ladies and gentlemen, I said I am Federal Judge Patricia Hawthorne. And let me tell you, you could hear the oxygen leave the room. Brenda's face drained white. Her cousin, the deputy, slid away, and for a second there every vulture looked a little less certain. But let me back up a sec. I was just plain Patricia for almost 3 years after buying my little ranch house in Meadowbrook Estates. Nothing fancy, just a slice of peace until the day my world turned upside down. Mom got sick, and I took a leave of absence from the bench. 6 months gone in a blink. I hired the HOA's favorite lawn crew, forwarded my mail, did everything by the book, and drove off to be with my mother. She passed on a Wednesday. Thursday, still in my black dress, I come home to a front porch drowning in certified letters, sympathy flowers, gone brown, house smelling like abandonment and regret. I tore open the thickest envelope, Meadowbrook HOA final notice. $2, $400 in violations, every single one pure fiction. 12 counts for my grass being half an inch too tall, even though their own contractor mowed it weekly. 6 violations for a non-regulation mailbox, even though mine matched 47 others on the street. $900 for removing a dead rosebush. I had email approval screenshots and all. And every violation dated when I was at Mom's bedside, surrounded by nurses who could vouch for me. Brenda's signature at the bottom demanding payment in 10 days or else foreclosure. You ever try reasoning with someone who's already decided you're guilty? Brenda was ice cold on the phone. Violations are violations, Mrs. Hawthorne. Grief isn't an excuse. She suggested I consider a senior community with less responsibility. Her voice fake sweet, just oozing the same smugness I'd heard from 100 crooks in court who thought they were smarter than the law. I hung up shaking with rage, but after 18 years on the bench, you learn not to flinch. I started digging. Evening walks revealed 3 for sale signs. All families who just lost someone. Public records traced the sales to a company called KCS Holdings, same address as Kirkpatrick Construction, Brenda's family business. The kicker: every violation letter looked identical, down to the weird spacing after periods. I had a choice: back down or fight. Guess which I picked? Turns out Brenda's scam was bigger than me. Her white Lexus was parked at Florence Murphy's place 3 doors down. Florence Widow, 82, clutching her own violation notice, crying behind the curtains. This wasn't neighborly concern, it was a business model. Time for a counterattack. 48 hours after I called Brenda, there's an emergency HOA meeting notice crammed in my mailbox. Bylaws say 7 days notice, but rules are just suggestions when you're the queen bee. The meeting, a circus. Brenda at the front, her nephew Chad playing Inspector PowerPoints full of photos of my perfectly ordinary lawn mailbox rosebush. We have to protect property values, she declared. I stood binder in hand and asked to respond. This isn't a courtroom, Mrs. Hawthorne. Then why am I being tried in absentia? The thunk of my binder on her table was the most satisfying sound I'd heard in months. I laid out written approvals, receipts, photos, proof that every violation was a lie. Brenda barely glanced. These could be fabricated, she said. In 18 years, nobody's ever called me a liar to my face. She turned to the crowd playing the victim. Desperate people fabricate evidence. That's when her true colors showed. The board had already filed liens, no notice, no process, just a railroad job. I pulled out my phone. For the record, I announced, you're proceeding with liens against a homeowner who was 200 miles away caring for her dying mother. You're ignoring written approvals and you're violating your own notification procedures. Brenda's confident smirk flickered. You can't record this meeting. Actually, I can. It's public and this is a single-party consent state. That got some neighbors' attention. Florence wiped her eyes and started listening. People whispered, she's got a point. Maybe we should document stuff too. On my way out, Tom Bradley, a Vietnam vet, slipped me a note. You're not the first, he muttered. I opened it in my car, addresses, violation dates, sale prices, all families forced to sell for pennies on the dollar. Brenda wasn't just running an HOA, she was running a shakedown. The next morning, Brenda and Chad showed up at 6 a.m., marching up my driveway with tape measures and clipboards documenting imaginary violations. Garden gnome, 2 tall Christmas lights in September. I didn't have any of the works. Lawn crew quit, said I was litigious. My pool key stopped working. Mailbox upgraded, but I never got the new key. Brenda was isolating me, hoping I'd fold. Instead, I went nuclear. Instead, I went 4 hours in the courthouse records room, breathing in the scent of musty files and old glue, and I found it 23 homes, forced into below-market sales after harassment campaigns, every one traced to Kirkpatrick Shell Companies. HOA budgets showed $180,000 in violation fees last year, only $23,000 spent on community improvements. The rest vanished into consulting fees. The real kicker, the original 1994 HOA covenant, buried in a county folder, proved that every bylaw Brenda used was unauthorized. She never had the legal right to issue those fines. Then I caught Brenda plotting on the phone, heard her in the parking garage, telling someone to accelerate the timeline on Hawthorne. File the foreclosure paperwork tomorrow. My buyer's financing expires next month. I recorded every word. That evening, I joined forces with Margaret Morgan, an accountant under siege for excessive children's toys. Her lawyer, Daniel Rodriguez, had tracked this racket for years. They've stolen over $2 million in home equity, he told me. But Brenda has friends in city planning. Be careful. Oh, I was ready. Back home, my kitchen looked like an FBI war room. Tom's list, Margaret's spreadsheets, my recordings. The same pattern over and over, targeting families during their lowest moments. Brenda thought I was just another victim. She had no clue she'd picked a fight with a federal judge. Her next move was a certified letter from her brother-in-law's strip mall law firm, $800 in fees, $200 in admin costs, $7,000, or lose your house. She even claimed I'd missed a mediation that never happened. Their evidence included affidavits from Chad, who swore I'd threatened him never happened, photos of dog damage, never owned a dog, and mail receipts dated while I was in hospice. They weren't just criminals, they were clumsy. So I called Rodriguez, who laid out the whole scheme. 15 homes average $62,000 profit per flip. Same tricks in 4 counties. The real twist, Brenda already filed for permits to develop my corner lot into a duplex, banking on a forced sale. All the pressure, all the harassment, just a land grab. At that point, I told Rodriguez the truth. I'm a federal judge, Daniel. And this isn't just an HOA dispute, it's a federal case. The color drained from his face. Judge Hawthorne, with your authority. Let's give her one last chance to resign, I said. But if she refuses, we drop the federal hammer. Next morning, Tom and I hit the county archives. The 1994 incorporation papers had an emergency intervention clause, get 25% of homeowners to sign a petition, provide evidence of fraud, and the entire board's authority is suspended. We already had 37 signatures. We only needed 45. I called my team together, Margaret, Tom, Daniel, Sarah, Kim, whose husband had inside info from city planning. We mapped out every family targeted, every dollar stolen, every fake violation. Rodriguez prepped legal complaints for the state HOA board. Margaret crunched the numbers. Tom lined up witnesses. Sarah supplied city records showing Brenda's development timeline. But Brenda sensed the walls closing in. Mailbox vandalized. Car tires slashed. Anonymous threats in our mail. The real turning point, Florence Murphy came to my door sobbing, clutching a manila envelope. She paid me to sign violation reports I never witnessed, threatened to take my house. Florence was our star witness. Emergency meeting night, Brenda strutted in with her deputy cousin and a stack of fabricated evidence ready to have me arrested. The room was packed, the AC busted, everyone tense. Brenda tried to play the martyr, but Florence stood up and confessed. The deputy paled, stepped back, realizing he was on the wrong side of history. I rose slow and steady and held up my badge. My name is Patricia Hawthorne, United States District Court Judge. What you've witnessed tonight is federal racketeering, fraud, and civil rights violations. Brenda wilted. The deputy called for detectives. Chaos erupted, cheers, applause, neighbors crying relief. When Brenda tried to bolt, the deputy stopped her. Ma'am, you need to stay until the FBI arrives. 18 minutes later, 2 black SUVs and Special Agent Maria Santos. Within minutes, Brenda Chad and her brother-in-law were cuffed. The news camera rolled as I delivered the line. Folks still quote at block parties, criminals always think they're smarter than the law. But federal prison doesn't care about your HOA authority. 6 months later, I'm drinking coffee in my garden where Brenda dreamed of building her illegal duplex, watching kids laugh in the pool she tried to close. Brenda's doing 8 years in federal prison. Her family businesses liquidated, $2.1 million returned to the family she robbed. Our HOA fees are down the boards, transparent, the neighborhood's stronger than ever. Here's the thing, bullies only win when we let them. Document everything, work together, know your rights. If you've got an HOA horror story, drop it in the comments. Let's build a wall of stories so high no vulture can fly over. Because justice isn't about who screams the loudest. It's about who stands their ground even when it's hard. So, what would you do if they came for your home during your darkest hour? Let me know below, and if you want more stories of ordinary folks standing up to extraordinary corruption, you know where to find me.